You've walked into a store wearing the wrong thing and felt it before anyone said a word. The employee's eyes landed on you, moved down to your shoes, and something shifted. Not hostility, something worse. Dismissal. They didn't refuse you service. They just stopped seeing you as someone worth the effort. Their tone flattened. Their attention drifted. And when someone better dressed walked in 2 minutes later, you watched them light up in a way they never did for you. You stood there holding the same money, asking the same questions, and receiving a completely different version of reality. Nobody said anything out loud. Nobody had to. Your appearance had already spoken for you, and it said something you never agreed to. This isn't about materialism or vanity or keeping up with trends. This is about a mechanism that runs underneath every social interaction you'll ever have, and it operates whether you acknowledge it or not. The way you look determines how people unconsciously categorize you, and once that categorization happens, it's nearly impossible to override with words or behavior. You can be the smartest person in the room, the most capable, the most qualified, and if the visual signal you're sending says low status, the room will process you through that filter before you've opened your mouth. Everything that comes after, your ideas, your competence, your character, gets interpreted through a lens you didn't choose and can't see. This is not how the world should work. It is how the world does work. Carl Jung spent decades studying the mechanisms that operate below conscious awareness, the patterns people follow without knowing they're following them. He understood that human beings don't interact with reality directly. They interact with their projections of reality, and those projections are shaped by symbols, archetypes, and unconscious associations that are far older and more powerful than any individual's rational mind. When someone looks at you and sees poverty, they're not making a calculated assessment of your bank account. They're responding to an unconscious script that associates certain visual cues with weakness, failure, and low value. That script wasn't written by them. It was written by centuries of cultural programming, and it runs automatically. The persona is Jung's term for the social mask, the version of yourself you present to the world. Most people think of it as superficial, as something shallow people care about and deep people ignore. But Jung saw it differently. He argued that the persona is a necessary interface between your inner self and the outer world, and that neglecting it isn't a sign of authenticity. It's a form of self-sabotage. When you refuse to manage how you're perceived because you believe people should see the real you, you're not being genuine. You're being naive about how the unconscious mind works. The people judging you based on appearance aren't making a choice to be shallow. They're running a program they can't even see, and your refusal to account for that program doesn't make you noble. It makes you invisible. Here's where it gets painful. When you look poor, the world doesn't just treat you worse. It starts to convince you that you deserve to be treated worse. That's the part nobody talks about. The dismissive glance from the salesperson, the longer wait at the restaurant, the job interview where you could feel them losing interest the moment you walked in. Each one of these interactions deposits a small amount of doubt into your self-concept. Over time, those deposits accumulate. You start carrying yourself differently. Your posture shifts. Your eye contact weakens. Your voice loses conviction. And the cruel irony is that those changes in your behavior confirm the very assumption that created them. You begin to perform the role that was projected onto you. Not because it's who you are, but because being seen that way long enough starts to reshape how you see yourself. Jung would call this identification with the projection. It's the process by which an external judgment becomes an internal belief. Someone treats you as if you're less than, and over enough repetitions, you begin to organize your psychology around that assessment. You stop applying for the job because you already know they won't take you seriously. You stop walking into certain spaces because the discomfort of being visually out of place has become too heavy. You shrink your life to fit the container other people's perceptions built for you. And after a while, you forget that the container was never yours. It was placed on you by strangers who saw your clothes before they saw your mind and decided that was enough information. The world is not kind to people who look like they're struggling. It doesn't extend patience or curiosity or the benefit of the doubt. It extends suspicion. It extends oversight. It extends the particular kind of politeness that functions as a wall, the kind where someone is technically civil but has already decided you don't belong. And the machinery behind this isn't cruelty, it's the shadow. Jung's concept of the shadow includes everything a person or a culture refuses to acknowledge about itself, and one of the deepest shadows in modern society is the terror of being poor. Your visible struggle activates their unconscious fear, and the fastest way to manage that fear is to distance themselves from you, to make you other, to convince themselves that whatever circumstances led to your appearance could never happen to them. This is why the treatment changes so drastically when the packaging changes. You've seen it yourself, or you've heard the stories. Same person, same resume, same level of intelligence, but a different watch, a better jacket, shoes that signal a certain bracket, and suddenly the doors open wider. The voice on the other end of the phone gets warmer. The eye contact from strangers lasts a fraction of a second longer, and that fraction makes all the difference. Jung would say the shift isn't in how others see you, it's in which archetype they assign you. When you look like you belong to a certain world, people unconsciously project competence, authority, and trustworthiness onto you. When you don't, they project the opposite. Neither projection has anything to do with who you actually are. So what do you do with this? You start by understanding that managing your appearance isn't selling out. It's refusing to let other people's unconscious biases write your story for you. Jung never advocated for abandoning the persona. He advocated for wearing it consciously, choosing the mask instead of letting one be chosen for you. The goal isn't to become someone you're not. It's to stop allowing a world that runs on projection to project you into a box you were never meant to occupy. Your value doesn't change based on what you're wearing, but your access does. Your opportunities do. The version of reality you're allowed to participate in does. And pretending otherwise isn't integrity. It's a luxury that people who've never been dismissed on sight can afford. The deepest wound isn't being poor. It's being made to feel like poverty means something is fundamentally wrong with you, rather than fundamentally wrong with how the world distributes its attention and respect. Jung spent his life trying to bring unconscious patterns into the light, because he believed that what remains unconscious controls you, and only what becomes conscious gives you a choice. The way people treat you when you look poor is one of those patterns. It's automatic, invisible, and devastatingly effective. And the only real power you have isn't to change how people see you overnight. It's to refuse to internalize what they're seeing does to your sense of who you are.